Be Frankie.
Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy BDELL. If you're new to this channel, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. In today's transmission, we must extrapolate the spiritual apparatus of the matrix system in the form of methodology to give you the clarification that you need, because it's based on the spiritual metamorphosis of the planet, which manipulates the atmosphere. So you already know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen, because it's starting to get crazy out here. Get those notes out. And for the non-ether engineering video, put 999 in the chat. Get the likes up. Hit the subscribe button if you're new, right? So we finna get into it because all this stuff is based on the spiritual metamorphosis of the planet, right? So you had, the doomsday clock just moved up on January 28th up to 89 seconds. And there's a spiritual component that basically comes with that, because by way of the law of reciprocity, energy expands and returns to itself because it operates on the seculum of a cycle that's connected to solar cycle 25, which is also connected to the 80-year cycle block theory, which also works in tandem with the thermogeneration system of non-ether engineering. Now, the doomsday clock, it just moved up to 89 seconds. It moved up 1 second, right? So there's a metaphysical codex that's basically correlated with that. So it says right here, 2025 doomsday clock, this is how close we are to self-annihilation, scientists say. The doomsday clock is the closest to midnight as it's ever been. It's 89 seconds to midnight, and the scientists, security experts say humanity is close to facing global catastrophe with no advance on nuclear risk, climate change. Scientists, global leaders revealed the Tuesday that the doomsday clock has been reset to the closest humanity is basically to self-annihilation. So with that being said, they moved it up to 89 seconds, right? 89 seconds is a numerical component that basically denotes the fact that it's something big is going to be taking place, which is going to create the metamorphosis in a form of a reset by way of a calamity, whether if it's orchestrated by the deep state shadow government or if it's something that's cosmic happening to our atmosphere. So notice you see the number 89, right? They moved it up 89 seconds. Now, there's an album that you got to listen to by Larry June and the Alchemist. Notice you see the name Alchemist. And the album is called The Great Escape. Now, there's a song on there called 89 Earthquake. So what I did was I did my own independent research, and I looked up to see if there was really an earthquake in 1989. And this is what I came across, right? Now, remember, I put out the video talking about the Golden Gate, which is basically the epitome of the 1111. Now, Chris Brown just won a Grammy for his 1111 album, but the 1111 is basically the embodiment of the two pillars of the silver key and the golden key to get to the golden age, which is acclimated to the Golden Gate. So in 1989, Loma earthquake happened, and it was a 6.9 magnitude earthquake that basically triggered the San Andreas fault line, and it lasted for 15 to 20 seconds, and it caused a big calamity in San Francisco Bay Area, right? So this can be the numerical codex of 89 seconds, basically denoting the fact that it's connected to the 128 code, the gematria code of 128, which is based on a form of calamity and annihilation, right? So, like I said, 89 earthquake. So, like I said, remember I was telling you guys that numbers is able to go through many different dimensional realities because they have portals connected to them, right? So numbers denotes the fact that everything in our universe is mathematical. So you're able to time jump by way of the numbers. So something that took place in 1989 is going to come back around in 2025, which is why they set it at 89 seconds, because you had the Loma earthquake in 1989. So you notice the 128 ritual. This is the 128 ritual, right? And you see that they was on the Golden Gate Bridge. Now you got to watch this video I did 2 weeks ago. It's called The Gate of the Gods Planetary Alignment. When you're talking about the celestial alignments from the one that we had on January 21st, and we're going to have another one on February 28th, which is basically the personification of the silver key and the golden key to get to the Golden Gate, which is basically at the apex of solar cycle 25 in a precessional circle, when we're basically at the apex of the golden age. Now, this is all connected to the 128 ritual. So you had the Twin Towers at 10:28, which is basically 128. You have the bridge collapse at 128, key bridge collapse at 128, and then you have the bridge collapse in gematria, in Vedic gematria is 128. Leave the world behind. Release was on 12:8. These are all 128 codes, right? And notice they moved the doomsday clock on January 28th, which is another 128 code that's connected to 89 seconds and the 89 earthquake in San Francisco Bay that was triggered by the San Andreas fault line, right? So all this is basically a ritual by way of numerology. When you understand the numerical codex of it and how it's connected to the binary code system of the matrix system that also works in tandem with the magneto-hydrodynamic of the Cassini gaps of the rings of Saturn that creates the plasma projection that is extracted to planet Earth to give out this simulated matrix that we're living in, right? So that's why we say that everything in the universe is mathematical. Now, 128 was also the beginning of was basically the beginning points of the end of the wood dragon. Now we're in the year of the snake, the year of the serpent, right? Which started on 128 when they moved the clock. So this is lady right here. We have 1,208 days left, right? Which is basically the epitome of the 128 code, right? All this stuff is connected. 1,028. Okay. Why is it not going? Now, this is also connected to Leave the World Behind. Bridge collapsed at 128, movie released on 12/8. All the, by way of numerology and the perception of art imitates reality. So the reality is being orchestrated by the numbers that's connected to the simulation that also works in tandem with the gematria body, right? The gematria body is connected to the simulation, right? So by way of the etheric network that is extracted from the thermosphere, which activates the neuroendocrine transducer, which manipulates our atmosphere, which is what we call an interface transition in the Metatronic overlay. What happens is you get an influx of energy that causes calamity. So what they're doing is the deep state shadow government, they're trying to line up their orchestrated events with the celestial alignments that's by way of the numerical components of the binary code system of the matrix. So that's why a lot of times, like I said, you have a natural event that's taking place by way of solar cycle 25, and then you have an orchestrated event by way of the deep state shadow government and the plutocracy that's basically trying to engineer this totalitarian civilization by way of an ultra-nationalist civilization that was created by Donald Trump. So this is all connected to the day of destruction. Numerical code is 128 in reverse. So one thing you got to understand, you got to look at this from a metaphysical standpoint, also from a theological standpoint. Not so much to the point where you get so merged into the religion. So all this stuff that you see taking place is actually prophetic. So they came out with this publication, Why is the Earth's Magnetic North Pole Moving Eastwards Across the Earth's Core Slowed Down? Much is moving backwards. Scientists confirm. Here's what it means. Now, one thing you got to understand is that the Earth's core is comprised of the thermosphere. The thermosphere is basically extracts plasma energy that's connected to the core of the planet. which creates portals, because the plasma energy has an influx of iron that creates dynamos. The dynamos, once it speeds up in vibration, it starts to reverse because it's going through a form of a reset, which is basically the epitome of your so-called pole shift. So the pole shift is acclimated to this theological context when you're talking about the Holy Quran or the Quran and the Moorish traditions. Allah's messenger said the hour will not be established till the sun rises from the west, and when it rises from the west, the people see it and all of them will believe in Allah, right? So, like I said, this is all based on the energy of the sun, because we're in solar cycle 25, and according to the 24,000 year verification period of the 24,000 year equinox, this is the last reincarnation cycle. So this is why they're trying to galvanize so many souls by way of artificial intelligence, because the technology that's connected to artificial intelligence basically saves your soul and your essence and your spirit in a form of technology to where it's able to be extracted on the dark side of the moon for a different projection on a different planetary body, right? Because they want to carry this on to planet Mars. But that's a whole different transmission. We're going to get into that. I'm going to give a definitive breakdown of why they want to go to Mars, right? Because they want to start a new a lunar system that's connected to that celestial body, because it's a dead planet. So now, Earth's magnetic north just officially moved. Scientists just updated its position, right? Earth's oceans are filled with scientists are calling dark vessels. Now, these dark vessels are basically interstellar vortex portals, and these are pockets that is extracted from the thermosphere that's connected to the ionosphere, which draws in energy from the magnetosphere, right? Notice you see the word magnetosphere, because that's where the planet gets its magnetism, which basically amplifies the magnetic field of the planet to where these dark vessels or these dark pockets is able to create an influx of energy. And the influx of energy is why we're having so much manipulation with the planes. Now, some of it is being orchestrated by the deep state, these plane crashes, but a lot of it is going to happen. The big event that's going to happen is going to happen because of solar cycle 25, right? Because the sun has the ability to manipulate historical timelines that's connected to our planet. So the Earth's magnetic pole has officially moved again. You notice you see the clock, because all this stuff is connected to the precessional circle of the equinox, right? So, since with that being said, we finna get into this. There's a book you got to read called Non-Ether Re-Engineering, because the non-ether energy is connected to Heru, right? Because Heru represents the astral plane or the etheric force of the kingdom of heavens, right? Which is why they say that heaven is in the Orion, and Orion is basically a star constellation that's connected to every pyramid on the planet, right? And the pyramids is going to be turned on, which is going to manipulate the Metatronic overlay of the three-dimensional reality that we're living in, because it basically creates an influx of oxygen, right? Which is basically going to manipulate all the cosmic energy within our atmosphere. So that's why Heru was always depicted as a hawk, right? And a hawk can sometimes be denoted the fact that it's connected to an energy of a phoenix, which is why they had a veneration for it in ancient Kemet, because it represents the light force energy of all ether that is comprised of the non-noble gases, which is exon, radon, argon, and krypton, helium, hydrogen, and I think it's some other elements. It's helium, hydrogen, carbon, exon, radon, argon, and krypton. And you also have exon. That's the other one. These are all non-noble gases, right? Because it has a electromagnetic radiation that creates an elemental compound. These elemental compounds comprised together is what creates the ether. The ether is the etheric force, which is the astral plane, which is the magnetosphere. The magnetosphere is the astral plane that's connected to the kingdom of heavens, which is the magnetosphere. That magnetosphere represents the hawk. The hawk represents the light. The light represents you, that's connected to the etheric force, because it activates the magnetites and the dendrites in the brain. Now, the crystals in the brain is able to absorb what? It's able to absorb light and extract light. right? Because light is also information. So the information is also being streamed down in the form of plasma radiation. Plasma radiation that is connected to the 4 cycles of thermal engineering or re-engineering. So when you understand the 4 cycles of the laws of thermodynamics is based on expansion. Expansion, heat removal, compression, and heat addition. So I told you by way of the law of reciprocity, energy expands and returns to itself because it operates on a seculum of a cycle. I'm going to show you guys something here. Hold on, let me get my, all right. Now you see my cursor down here. It says expansion right here. You notice you see the clock because the clock is basically the embodiment of the cosmic clock, right? Which is also connected to the precessional circle. So when you're looking at this, I'm going to zoom in. When you're looking at this right here, when you're looking at these, the heat expansion and heat addition, removal and compression, you're basically looking at this right here. So this is based on expansion, heat addition, heat removal, and then you have the other part of it that was connected to the sun cycle. So like I said, expansion was because of the cosmic energy from the magnetosphere, which is basically the embodiment of creation, right? When you're talking about Genesis chapter 3, verse 5, when God created the heavens and the earth or whatever, this is all based on the inception point of the sun cycle when everything was basically created in our atmosphere or created by way of the Milky Way galaxy, which is basically the epitome of the Earth zone. So everything was created in the first sun cycle. Then you have the Piscean age of darkness, Aries, and Taurus that is connected to the moon cycle, which is where you have the heat removal. Because remember, I told you that the ionosphere is comprised of the thermosphere and the magnetosphere. So the magnetosphere was manipulated to the lunar light lock of the Van Allen belt when you're talking about the Pleiadian energy that works in tandem with the Draconian firmament. So that was the spiritual cutoff in the last 6,000 years in the moon cycle, which is why everything was facilitated by the age of mankind. Mankind is a kind of a man that was genetically spliced into existence in 4086 BC on the island of Patmos. So when you go to Revelation 17:17, the evil reptilian gave power to the beast in the last 6,000 years. So now we're in the last sun cycle, which is basically the epitome of the solar cycle 25, right? Which is the epitome of the golden age, right? So we're going to go back, which is the epitome of the golden age. Hold on, let me go back to, I think I deleted it. Okay, here we go. So now this is where you have compression in the last sun cycle, right? So what does that compression do? So this is all connected to the dynamical principles of the etheric network of ether. So this is why I said in the first sun cycle started with non-ether. Then non-ether dissipated and became 6 ether in the age of Pisces, Aries, and Taurus. This is where you had the heat removal. Now you had compression, where 3 ether resurrects the 6 ether in the last lunar cycle that we in, right? We're not in the age of darkness. The age of darkness is when they created those firmaments that basically was the epitome of the spiritual cutoff to where you're not able to absorb the energies from the sun. Now you have heat addition in the last sun cycle. The last sun cycle is the epitome from 6 ether resurrecting to 9 ether, which is connected to Arsar or Osiris in ancient Kemet, which is why Sister Myra talking about Super Bowl 59, because 5 + 9 = 14, which is the 14th piece, right? The 14th piece, which is a form of resurrection. The resurrection is a form of Christ consciousness that is acclimated to the sun cycle and solar cycle 25, which upgrades your DNA. Your DNA is going to upgrade during this time period because there's a thermodynamic process that is working in tandem with the celestial alignments that also works in tandem with the planets inside you, which are basically your chakra systems. So this is why I said that ether has the ability to absorb everything in the ethers by way of the dodecahedron. right? Because the dodecahedron is basically the epitome of the highest frequency that is extracted from the heavens. It is extracted from the heavens because it all works in tandem with the nine principles of ether, right? Which is the primordial source of the electromagnetic radiation that which creates neutrinos, which are Holy Ghost particles, and those neutrinos is able to transmit and receive energy from the cosmos, which is connected to the grand unified theory, or the Higgs boson particle, which is also known as the God particle, which is also a form of ether, right? This is what you see in taking place. This is why you're having so much manipulation in the atmosphere. So this is why I said it's all being streamed down from the ionosphere, which creates the energy from the thermosphere and the magnetosphere and is extracted down to the atmosphere, because that is basically an intrinsic force of gravity that manipulates the antimatter particles of ether, right? Which creates ionization, and that ionization creates interface transitions, and those interface transitions basically manipulates the quarks and the leptons that's connected to our atmosphere, right? So this is what we got going on right now, right? This is what we got going on, because once you break out of the gematria body by way of these energies coming in, that's when you're able to tap into the epikinetic body that's connected to your Akashic records, which is your scroll of all, which is your tablets of destiny. Your tablets of destiny is your fire of God, which is basically the father of flames, which is the God is your light source, which is basically the upgrading of your genetics, because the word genetics comes from the word gen. Gen is connected to a form of you being a genius, which is you being a genius due to manipulation of your genes, right? So that's why I said all is mental. All is mental by you being the true intrinsic life force, which basically manipulates the metaphysical codex of Lucifer, where you're able to see beyond the dualistic paradox of the three-dimensional matrix system, to where you're able to tap into the light source energy of the burning ones, which is the serpentine fiery forces. The serpentine fiery forces is connected to this, right? It's connected to the fact that it has a hidden magnetic signals. These magnetic signals is creating solar storms. And these solar storms is why you have chirping waves detected in a baffling location near the Earth. What you see right here, that is all ether. That is green. That is the green etheric energy that is manipulating everything in our atmosphere, that is causing acceleration drag in our atmosphere, right? And it's all, like I said, because we're in solar cycle 25, right? We in that time period. If you look at solar cycle 25, 2 plus 5 equals 7. 7 represents Christ consciousness. 7 represents, in the supreme mathematical sequence of the 5% nation, it represents the Most High, or God, right? And then also 7 is also the epitome of your chakra system, the serpent rising, the kundalini pendulum, right? So that's why I said stay off the planes. I showed you guys before, snakes on the plane, because we're in the year of the serpent. The year of the cosmic serpent is when you have an influx of energy, which basically increases your genetics on an intrinsic level, to where you're able to break out of the gematria body and you go to the Zohar body, right? So like I said, the plane crashes that you've seen that took place in Philadelphia, that was a ritual, because Kobe Bryant, where is he from? He's from Philadelphia. And the Eagles, they put out a tweet denoting the fact that, it was a helicopter, and they put that tweet out on Kobe Bryant's death anniversary, while at the same time we're in the year of the snake, right? Because the year of the snake is the year of the serpent. This is all a Super Bowl ritual, right? Because it was on runway 33. 33 is connected to the Black Nobility Eagle. The Black Nobility Eagle symbolizes patriarchy, that is connected to the 33 degrees of Freemasonry, right? While you have 13 is a matriarchal number that basically represents the chiefs. And the chiefs, like I said, is basically the personification of the fact that you're having the restoration of the matriarch, which is why Donald Trump, he signed the Second Declaration of Independence on July the 2nd of 2020, which is basically the restoration of a republic, because a republic, you can only have it in a sun cycle. You can't have a republic in a moon cycle. A republic in a sun cycle, in the Aquarian age, in the age of Libra also, is when you have a matriarchal civilization, meaning that the king rules through the woman, right? It doesn't mean that the woman is above the man. The king rules through the woman, meaning that they both work in synergy like a machine in a factory. They work together, right? You the machine, she's the oil. That's how you create autonomous civilizations, or fifth dimensional civilizations. It has to be matriarchal because everything that was patriarchal is basically a form of the demo system of democracy, which took you out of your sovereign capacity, which is why you're not the chief no more. You're not on your land because you have no sovereign capacity, right? But since everything is starting to reset by way of the cosmic clock in a processional circle, now they got to give everything back too. So this is why Donald Trump, like I said, he's playing both sides. Donald Trump is playing both sides. The reason that is because he's catering to your so-called blacks and the indigenous people, is because he has to give the keys back to Mother Nature. He has to give the keys back to the original people. That is part of his blueprint of him being in office. That's about by way of universal law. If he wasn't doing what he was doing, he would be breaking universal law. That doesn't mean that he's your savior. He's not saving or restoring the matriarch because he wants to. He has to. That's universal law. Because like I said, we're in the sun cycle. Sun cycle, matriarch. Matriarch is connected to the indigenous people, which is why we are sun people. We are melanated people, right? We get our intelligence from the sun. So during this time in the last sun cycle, this is where you're going to get a lot of so-called melanated people or indigenous people. A lot of us is going to get a new intelligence. And when I say a new intelligence, you're going to be able to break out of the mind-mental matrix of the holonomic brain theory to where you're able to think outside the box and be able to create mechanisms to basically defeat the Metatronic overlay that was connected to the moon cycle. So like I said, this is all, everything that you see taking place was a Super Bowl ritual, right? So then also, like I said, Super Bowl ritual in the 9-year. So I did a brief synopsis on this. I put this on TikTok and they removed it, but somehow they let it almost get up to 1 million views on Facebook. So if you will, my Facebook is right here at the bottom, BDELL Rice Bay. And watch out for the fake accounts. So it has 900,000 views. So I did like basically like a brief synopsis, basically connecting how, this is all a Super Bowl ritual when you're talking about these plane crashes. Now, all this is connected to a form of numerology because, like I said, the crash happened on the 29th of January and the Super Bowl was on February 29, right? This is all ritualistic. And you notice you see the plane that fell from the sky, or the plane that basically crashed from into the Black Hawk. You notice you see right here where my cursor is, you see the Codicus symbol. You see the serpent on the staff, right? Which is basically connected to this. This is all a form of symbology of the restoration of the spinal generation fire that strikes the pineal gland in the form of Kundalini energy that activates the chakra system, which is your energy cortexes that correspond with the celestial alignments when I was talking about the silver key and the golden key. Because these planetary alignments that you see is also activating the planets within your genetics, right? So this is what you're basically seeing. So I'm going to show a video because I got too far into the presentation. I'm going to show you guys this video that basically corresponds with everything that I'm talking about. So I'm going to show you guys this video. See, they know what time it is, but it's up to you to have the mental and the spiritual fortitude to understand what time it is as well, right? You got to turn on your spiritual eye because they not playing. You know what I'm saying? They not playing. The reason I said it, they're not playing is because they're trying to line up their orchestrated events with celestial events. So that's why I said, like, it don't matter how many people they're going to sacrifice, because they're trying to find a way to basically save this three-dimensional reality, because there's no evolution for the third dimension. The third dimension was galvanized by the moon cycles. The moon cycle is the Piscean age of darkness. The Piscean age of darkness is the age of illusion. So that's why the illusion is being eradicated, because it's happening in the form of alchemy, which is the magnum opus of creation. So what happens is you have the squaring of the circle, meaning that the circle basically embodies the spiritual metamorphosis, and the square represents the end of the three-dimensional realm, which is a form of the physical world that we basically living in, which is basically the illusion. So the illusion is being eradicated by way of these celestial alignments. So they're going to hit you with orchestration after orchestration, because they want to save the third dimension, because they know that their time is basically up, because the 6,000 years is up.
Few weeks, you can. It's called a planetary parade, when the planets align as they orbit the sun. For the first time in more than a decade, Venus, Mars, Saturn and Jupiter are putting on a celestial show together.
Kara, really quick before we go, why is this rare? Why is this a rare occurrence?
Just because of the random alignment of the planets, we don't get this opportunity to see all of them all at once. So it's a fantastic opportunity to get outside, bundle up, and just really enjoy this special occasion.
All right, we look forward to it.
From our perspective here on Earth, you'll be able...
Now, let me interject for a second. Now, the first planetary alignment that we had on January 21st, that was 6 planets, right? Now we're going to have one on February 28th, and that's going to be 7 planets. 6 plus 7 is 13. That's restoration by way of the cosmos. Right? 13 is very significant of everything that's taking place on the planet right now, because it's based on this. It's based on solar cycle 25 and the precessional circle of the equinox that's connected to the 80-year cycle block theory, right? Which I also broke down intrinsically, and I put it out, and it's, doing pretty well on the internet or whatever, but the information is out there. All the information that you need as far as this metaphysical puzzle piece that's taking place in our reality, all the information is basically in the information in the video tabs on my YouTube channel. So I'm gonna play the video.
To see them like this. Mars with its orange hue and Jupiter towards the north, Venus to the west and just behind it, Saturn. They can all be seen with the naked eye, but a good pair of binoculars will help. The best time to look, about 60 to 90 minutes after sunset, before Venus and Saturn drop below the horizon. And if that wasn't enough cosmic delight for you, there's more. A comet is making a guest appearance for the next few nights across the western horizon. These pictures were captured from Orange in central New South Wales. It's a rare sight. The next scheduled visit is 600,000 years from now.
So the alignment, actually all the planets are always aligned, because in our solar system, all the planets orbit around the sun in a flat disk. And so the planets are always aligned from our perspective on the Earth. But what's really unusual is that we have 4 planets that you can see with the naked eye. They're some of the most spectacular planets as well, I must say. There are also 2 additional ones that we can't see with the naked eye.
Planetary alignments that are minor, like 2 to 3 planets, happen very often, especially with the inner planets. They can happen every few months. But when you get out to the gas giants, since they're very far out there, have bigger orbits.
So they've been telling y'all, see, they putting this stuff in the news, right? These are our interviews that's happening on the news, on news media all around the world. Now, remember, I was telling you about the squaring of the circle when you're talking about the 4 gas giant planets that is connected to the 9 noble gases. So the 4 gas giant planets is basically the epitome of the dodecahedron that is extracted from the magnetosphere. These energies is creating the influx of energy that manipulates the metatronic overlay, right? So when you square the circle, this is where you get the eradication process of everything in our physical reality. Right? And it's happening by way of the celestial alignments, because celestial alignments enhances the flow of cosmic energy. This cosmic energy is the ether, or the etheric force, that's extracted from the star Polaris in the magnetosphere, which basically manipulates the etheric network inside our planet, which is the black sun. That black sun is going to take you to a different space and time, which is also connected to our neurological faculties, that's connected to the Bathari gland, Bara, and cuneiform language means a different space and time. So that different space and time is going to happen by way of the celestial alignments, which activates the black sun within you and within everything in our universe, right?
It's moving a little bit slower. Those occur about every few decades, I'd say, but they persist for a long period of time. So about every 20 years, we have an alignment between Jupiter and Saturn, and it'll persist for quite a bit of time, a few decades in itself. So I'd say those 4 to 6 planet alignments can be frequent, but it depends on kind of where you are in its cycle.
The planets will be visible into the first part of next month.
It happened last Sunday, December the 3rd of 2012. The issue has been discussed by concerned scientists, social media, amateurs alike. Some consider it a scientific achievement of the ancient Egyptians, while others find it pure mythology.
Over the past several months, people have been talking about a lineup of 3 planets over the 3 great pyramids of Giza. Is this fact or fiction? This is what we are trying to sort out tonight rather, and we are making an observation from a vantage point.
As you noticed, back in 2012, everybody thought the world was going to end, right? So like I said, then you had this celestial alignment that took place in 2012. So this celestial alignment was basically in alignment with the Orion star constellation, right? Where you get the term seventh heaven. I think it's in the book of Amos where it talks about heaven is in the Orion, right? So why don't they talk about pyramids in the Bible? Why don't your pastor that you go to church and you listen to every Sunday, why aren't they talking about the pyramids? Why aren't they talking about these energies that has the ability to turn on the pyramids? Why aren't they talking about the celestial alignments that also works in tandem with the pyramids? That's because they're giving you misinformation. That misinformation was under the last age of darkness, the Piscean age. We're in the age of the true light now, right? The true light that basically eradicates the perception of religion. Step away from religion. Because, like I said, the emotional energy of the moon is what creates the material plane, because your emotions is connected to material, and material is created by the moon. And the moon in itself is based on the fact that everything in our dimensional reality has to phase out in the form of a reset. It resets because the sun is starting to heat up. It's going to heat up the sun within you as well. It's going through a form of a transition. This is all based on the spiritual metamorphosis of the planet, which manipulates everything in our atmosphere.
137 meters above the sea level. We are going to give people the opportunity to gaze at those planets themselves from a location that you can also see the pyramids, so that they can find out whether there is a link or it is rather a myth. But we have also pointed out that there are genuine links between the Great Pyramids and the Orion Belt. During the beginning of the summer, every June 21st, the sun sets behind Sphinx, just between the largest 2 pyramids. Also, twice a year, the sun...
You heard it here first. Now, remember, I told you guys, you're going to hear it here first. It's going to come a time in between now and between 2027, the pyramids is going to turn on. And once it turn on, that's when you're going to see the influx of all these planes going to be dropping from the sky. Because these pyramids is basically a form of cosmic radiation that is extracted from the star Polaris that is connected to the Orion star constellation. These energies is going to be pulling through. So once the pyramids is turned on, that is when you're going to get the apex of everything in solar cycle 25. So eventually the pyramids is going to turn on. So like I said, the pyramids is going to turn on eventually. Then, like I said, get out of California, right? Because there's going to be another earthquake. And like I've been telling y'all, stay off the airplanes. I've been telling y'all for about 2 years now, right? This is all based on the celestial alignments. But like I said, they got to hit you with orchestrated events that's lined up with the celestial alignments, right?
shines or lights up the face of Ramses II.
The American University in Cairo's observatory has held fact-finding observation and panel discussion on the phenomenon from mountain in 6th of October city. The location overlooks the pyramids at 137 meters above the sea level, allowing scientific assessment and analysis of the claimed alignment. The panel will also highlight confirmed and more significant orientations of the Egyptian monuments and archaeology sites with stellar objects. Ibrahim Yahya also spoke about the science itself with the pharaohs. Ahmed Nader for the Breakfast Show.
Welcome back again. You're still watching The Breakfast Show. And as we've seen in the report, the planetary alignments on the pyramids of Giza, Dr. Ala Ibrahim, professor of physics at the American University, is going to actually tell us the whole story.
Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, so we gather so that we can sort to the fact.
Reason why videos like this is very significant is because you got to understand some of the stuff that took place back in 2012 and basically see how it basically lines up with everything that's taking place in 2025 in the year of the Serpent. So that's why I'm showing you guys this video.
From the fiction so that we can give people the chance to turn a public debate into a learning chance. And this what happened on early morning of December the 3rd. The short answer is we found that there is only one vantage point, one angle where you can see the 3 planets on top of the pyramid. So it is not from every point, it is only from one vantage point. So there is part fact, part fiction. The fact part is there are 3 planets.
Planets, not stars. What
planets,
are they?
Yes, Mercury, Venus, and Saturn. They are lining up, and we have some pictures that depict them, and they are lining up almost on a straight path. Depending on your location, you can change your angle so that you can put them on top of the pyramid, but you can also put them on top of any other place, on top of the Cairo
And what
towers.
time was that?
That was early morning. You can still see them. If you look east from 5 to 6 in the morning, look east, you are going to see 3 planets on top of each other. So that was a chance to let people know about various types of stellar objects. People have gazed at planet Jupiter and those 3 planets. So it was an educational opportunity to empower people so that on their own, later on, they can be able to assess claims, to be able to sort arguments, and to critically look at natural phenomena and arrive at
Snap your W-2 and file your taxes 100%
of time. And by and large, most of these phenomena, they are peaceful. They don't harm us in any way. Most of the cosmic objects are playing a positive role to maintaining life on planet Earth. The sun, the moon, they play key role to maintain life on Earth. It is only when you have an object on a collision course that would impact Earth, and this hasn't happened for quite some time. I mean the large ones. There are small tiny objects that fall on our atmosphere on daily basis, and we see them during the night. This is what is called the shooting star. When you see a dot of light travels through the atmosphere, but large bodies, luckily they didn't come our way. NASA and other space agencies have intervention tools and means by which we can avert the threat from such objects. This is why looking at the sky, looking at the universe, space are important, not only to understand our place in the universe, but for the well-being of planet Earth.
Well, how was the audience? Did a lot of people join the event?
That was the interesting part. We got more than 200 people. Several of them were families, some tourists that heard about the event, so they came to see what is going to happen. So this was an interesting aspect to see how the Egyptian general public wanted to come to assess a popular claim that has to do with the universe and also has to do with their ancient culture.
How did they find out?
They were able to see the 3 planets with the naked eye. The 3 planets were
we have the, and it's very interesting because, you know, looking at something so magical like that, you know, but let people think back and see, well, were the pharaohs very clever enough to build the pyramids on a day of an alignment, or did that come by coincidence?
Right.
Or, I mean, you know, the fact that it just stands on the top of each of the 3 pyramids of Giza.
It just depends on your location. So this picture has some part fact and some part fiction. The fact, as we pointed out, is the 3 planets are there. Not exactly in the way are depicted right now. They are more vertical, as everyone who is watching us, they can find out tomorrow or the day after. Look towards the east from 5 to 6 in the morning. You are going to see those. And the other point is we pointed out that there are more interesting lineups have been established.
Well, Dr. Ala Ibrahim, Professor of Physics at the American University, we're very delighted to have you, and we hope that we don't...
So that was that. So now we're going to get back to the presentation at hand, because it's a lot of stuff that I still got to show you guys. Because like I said, these alignments basically works in tandem with our chakra system, which is basically our scroll of all, the 7 tablets of destiny, right? So that's why I said in the year of the serpent, it represents the Kundalini serpentine fire that sits at the base of the spine, right? So it's not a coincidence that when you look at the helicopter that crashed in Philly, you got the Caucasus symbol with the serpent on the staff. And this is, you know, Kobe Bryant is connected to it because he's from Philly, connected to the Philadelphia Eagles. All this works in conjunction because these planetary alignments is being extracted in the form of non-ether energy. So this is all connected to a form of engineering. So when you're looking at this, this is what you call a thermo extruder, right? A thermo extruder. So when you're looking at this screw right here, that is basically the epitome of your spine, or the serpent that's connected to the spine. So when you're looking at this, you're really looking at this, because when you understand the metaphysical aspects of thermal engineering, it was basically erected during the time of ancient Kemet. That's where it comes from, right? Because it operates on the doctrine of signatures that's connected to our chakra system. So when you're looking at this, I turn it to the side, right? At the head of the crown, you got the neuroendocrine transducer. Now, when you look at an extruder machine, you have an adapter. It has an adapter thermocouple, which is basically the heat transducer. So the heat transducer adapter is connected to the crown chakra, right? That's what you're basically looking at, because all these energies from the sun during the time of solar cycle 25 is based on the thermocouples of the heat chambers that's connected to the chakra system of the body, right? So that's why I said that the energy in itself has a melting point. Just like you have a melting zone and a melting point on a thermo extruder or whatever, you have plasma energy that works in tandem with our plasma within our genetics, right? That enhances the flow of cosmic energy within our chakra system as well. So that's why I said this is all form of non-ether re-engineering, because it has the ability to create a transduction by way of the law of thermodynamics, to where you're able to tap into the Zohar body, your higher self, gematria body connected to the simulation under the lunar cycle, which is the lunar light lock. Then you have the Zohar body, which is basically the epitome of the sun cycle that unravels everything that was connected to the gematria body. So this is why I said the gematria body is manipulated, because you have the flow of cosmic ionizing radiation. Ionizing radiation is basically the influx of neutrinos, which are Holy Ghost particles, which creates acceleration drag in airplanes. It has the ability to manipulate your DNA or on a negative level, or it can manipulate your DNA on a positive level, right? Which, if it's on a negative level, that's basically denoting the fact that you have eukaryotic cells, which is a form of 6-ether genetics that creates genomic instability, meaning that you have spliced DNA that is not harmonizing with the cosmic ionization particles in the radiation that is extracted from the sun. So that's why I said ionized particles has the ability to manipulate everything connected to the moon cycle. So everything connected to the moon cycle is the beast, the Canaanite bloodline, the Amorite. The Amorite has 6 ether genetics. everything that was created under the moon cycle, as far as like the material plane, all being eradicated, right? So that's what you see taking place. Everybody is not going to be able to tap into the non-ether engineering by way of the chakra system, right? Everybody don't have that serpentine fire that sits at the base of the spine, because you have to have a certain biotomic energy that's connected to the heart chakra, which is basically a form of 0-point energy fields, right? Meaning that you're able to use your emotions as a navigation system. So this is why I've been telling people, stay off the planes, right? Because it creates acceleration drag, because you have the neutrinos, which is comprised of neutrons and protons. The neutrinos are Holy Ghost particles that is extracted from the primary nuclei that works in tandem with the coronal mass ejections that manipulates all the atoms in our atmosphere. And that creates ionization that is extracted from the electromagnetic Cascadian zone, right? So that's, now when you're looking at this airplane, like I said, put it like this: stay off on days of anytime you see a form of numerology, as far as like on a day of the 11th or the day of the 9th, don't fly on no airplanes. Don't get on no airplanes unless it's something have to do with family. If there is like a spiritual event that's going to be taking place, like we're going to be having the Non-Ether God Fest, if you're coming for that, because we have to get together, because the more we get together, the more we're able to manipulate everything that's connected to this timeline. So there's, like I said, I'm not, trying to perpetuate any type of fear tactics or whatever. But like I said, there's a spiritual component that basically takes place with everything, happening in our reality right now. So there's exceptions to the rule. Don't get on no planes on the 11th of any day, or on the 9th of any day, or anything that adds up to 9/11, or anything that adds up to 11/11 or whatever, because that's basically the symbology of the Golden Gate. The Golden Gate is the energy of the sun that manipulates everything in our atmosphere, right? So that's why I'm saying, don't get on no planes on days that end with the 11th or 9/11 or whatever. Don't get on no planes that day. But if you feel like you got to get on a plane to go visit family, go ahead and do that. If you feel like you got to go on a plane for a business meeting that's going to get you to the next level on a financial level, go ahead and do it. But if you can, like I said, just drive everywhere you got to go. If you feel like you can take that 12-hour drive, then go ahead and do it. But as you can see, this was a ritual right here that basically took place. You see 322 on the plane, which is basically a skull and bones ritual, right? You can't make this up. Everything in the universe is mathematical. They putting it right in your face. You had 7 incidents in 3 days. All these is basically crashes, right? All these is basically crashes. And they came out with a movie called Flight Risk, right? Not a coincidence, right? So now we're finna get into another video. All right. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video. It's very important, because I've been telling you guys for the longest to stay off the airplanes, right? So if you know anybody who's basically like a flight attendant or whatever, show them this video, because this video is going to basically, could save their life, basically. Save thousands of lives. So like I said, I think on the Super Bowl's on the 9th or whatever, I believe. So if you will, try to stay off the airplanes during that day. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just got to pay attention to the signs. 2, 9, 11, like I said. On the days of 11th or 9, or anything that adds up to 9/11, anything that adds up to 11/11 is basically the epitome of the Golden Gate. Solar cycle 25. Stay off the airplanes on those days, basically. So I'm going to show you this video right here, because like I said, this happened on January 29th. You had, this adds up to an 11 at the bottom, if you see it, right? Stay off the planes. Anytime it adds up to a 9 or 11, stay off the airplanes, please.
Landed at an Air Force base in Alaska. Of course, the 104th Fighter Wing at Barnes Air National Guard Base in Westfield is expected to receive a new fleet of F-35s next year.
Another plane crash in the United States has claimed at least 6 lives. This latest tragedy coming just days after a passenger jet and a military helicopter collided in Washington, D.C.
And let's just get your initial reaction. We've all seen the horrific crash in Philadelphia around 6:30 last night. What do you make of what may have happened? I learned from covering the Washington crash as a reporter and going to the NTSB briefings, they say that in all investigations, they kind of look at 3 things: the human element, the machine element, and the environment element. We think that it was a cold but not particularly harsh environment night. We now just heard in Nate Foy's report from the jet company that there was nothing wrong with the plane. So could this be human error?
Yeah, so the aircraft's landing gear was down. And if you see where the impact point was, it was almost right on the runway, which suggests that the pilot was troubleshooting some kind of problem. And all of a sudden, they had to eject.
We're up in flames, and I didn't want to drive any further.
Crews taking the pilot to a nearby medical facility for evaluation.
The pilot was executing standard procedures and executing their respective mission, and essentially experienced an in-flight malfunction.
This crash comes after a string of incidents involving military aircraft in recent years. In November 2023, an F-35 fighter jet went missing, then crash landed in rural South Carolina, the pilot surviving.
I'm sorry, what happened?
We got a pilot in the house, and I guess he landed in my backyard.
Back in Alaska, Air Force officials still looking into the cause of that fiery crash.
Now, following that crash, the commander of the 354th Fighter Wing said he still has full faith in the capabilities of the F-35 as the premier fighter for the U.S. Air Force.
It's eerily quiet here at the scene. People struggling to process that an aeroplane has crashed into a densely populated area just 2 days after America's worst aviation disaster in nearly a quarter of a century, that mid-air collision in the skies above Washington.
We're learning more tonight about the moments leading up to America's worst aviation accident in decades. Flight data has revealed the Black Hawk helicopter may have been flying off course.
The Black Hawk helicopter seen flying in on the left of your screen.
You know, Arthur, you're touching on something that Chris Bauer, aviation expert in our last hour, touched on, and that is this rapid descent that we saw. Here's a little bit of what he said. I want to see if you agree.
It looked to me like it was initially accelerating normally, but then it stopped. It seemed to have leveled off, and then it started a descent. Ultimately wound up descending at over 11,000 feet a minute.
I was right here at the door of my job, and all I could see is a big ball of flames in the sky. Literally, you heard a loud bang. It shook the entire building. The whole building shook.
I was in shock. I'm still in shock. Like, this is insane. Why can this happen? And before that, to be honest, in my mind, I thought, like, what if the rocket would, because I'm from Ukraine, right? And there's war.
From the US president, so sad to see the plane go down in Philadelphia.
You already know who comes from that geographical area of Ukraine. When you're talking about the Ukrainian mafia, that's a whole different transmission. You got to look at that video I did about the black nobility and the end of the Canaanite factions. You got to watch that transmission that I put out on that. But I'm going to continue playing the video.
Pennsylvania, more innocent souls lost. Our people are totally engaged.
Witness account now. Philadelphia resident Lindy Lee joins us now. Lindy, describe what you saw and heard last night.
David, thank you so much for having me. My dad and I were actually on separate paths, and he got closer to the blast zone, and he shared footage with me that we're not able to share because it's so deeply traumatizing and graphic. After seeing it, I frankly wanted to vomit. It's just so gruesome. I wasn't able to get in because I was heading that way and the police were asking us to turn around. All I saw was the fireball. I actually didn't know it was a plane crash initially because I just saw the aftermath and I had to scroll through my phone.
And if you really look at it from a critical standpoint, that ain't even look like a plane. That looked like a missile, if you want to be 100. But like I said, I already broke down, intrinsically this conspiracy on I put it on TikTok. They removed the video. I put it on Facebook. It did almost 1 million views or whatever. But we already know what time it is. They trying to orchestrate all these events that's basically lined up with celestial alignments. That's all it is, right? You having a organic reset that is extracted from the cosmos in the magnetosphere, and then you having a physical reset that's being engineered by the deep state shadow government. That's what you got to understand. Now, I'm going to show you the diametrical process of the difference between the two as we get through the presentation, because it's going to give you a clear indication of what the hell is going on.
I asked people around me what exactly happened. It wasn't abundantly clear to me upon impact what was the cause of the fireball. It was just a scene from hell. It was just so gruesome, and we are just shell-shocked. I haven't slept. It's just been, I can't imagine what the families are going through right now.
It's just a nightmare for everybody involved, even just the eyewitnesses, let alone the people who were actually injured.
Everyone, all hands on deck. That's where we are right now.
This plane was a Learjet 55 owned by Jet Rescue, an air ambulance service. The twin-engine aircraft carrying a child, her mother and 4 crew, including doctors. It had only just taken off, bound for Tijuana, Mexico. It was in the air for just 41 seconds, reaching 1,600 feet before communications with air traffic control cut out.
Medevac Med Service 056, Northeast Tower. You on frequency? Medevac Med Service 056, Northeast Tower. We have a lost aircraft. We're not exactly sure what happened, so we're trying to figure it out.
This flight was a repatriation flight of a patient who recovered and was headed home. She was fit to fly.
Tonight, new flight tracking data shows that military chopper may have been flying off course.
The airplane was coming down on its track. It was perfect. It was in perfect shape coming down, and something was in its way. You can't let that happen.
The Black Hawk had been using a specialised, narrow, low-altitude corridor, but moments before the crash, it appeared to climb some 30 metres above its approved altitude. The Federal Aviation Administration today announcing an indefinite shutdown of that flight path.
What concerns have you had specifically about the congested airspace, and have you ever raised those directly with the FAA?
The United States airspace is the safest in the world. Safety is one of our top priorities.
It wasn't safe in this instance. There have been near misses here before. Have you raised concerns with the FAA about the congested airspace around Washington's airports?
We comply with all FAA safety regulations.
Radar shows another American flight had to abort landing due to a helicopter crossing its flight path at the same airport. And in years past, pilots have reported nearly a dozen near misses.
Is there time for a permanent shift in DC and across the country to keep airspace safe?
In this incident, it should not have happened. We have in aviation what's called a Swiss cheese approach, wherein if something fails, a backup should catch it. Multiple layers of redundancy.
Tonight, cranes have been brought in.
The operation to salvage the wreckage from the Potomac River is underway. It is expected to take some considerable time. The search for answers and the pain of the victims' families will last long beyond that.
41 people have now been recovered from the crash site. It is a slow and delicate operation. Investigators also locating the black boxes from both aircraft. They're under analysis.
We have right now 2 distinct debris fields.
Tonight, questions over how and why as the president departs the city bound for Mar-a-Lago.
So we're going to the Winter White House.
So with that being said, now that I got that video out the way for you guys, got to show you what time it is of what's taking place in the news media, right? They put it right in your face because by way of universal law, they got to give you the truth about everything that's taking place. So now this video, I'm gonna do a definitive breakdown on this, but I'm just gonna give a brief synopsis and only touch on it because we're gonna have a blood lunar eclipse on March 14th. Now, one thing that I did, I'm very numerical and I'm psychoanalytical, so I'm gonna look for many different things that basically lines up with this cosmic event. So when you're looking at this, from you're gonna have on March 14th of 2025, you're gonna have a blood moon lunar eclipse. Now, this is very significant because from October 14th of 2023, when you had my birthday, that was the Ring of Fire solar eclipse that basically created the Alpha symbol of the sign of the Lamb, which is basically denoting the fact it's a form of judgment in a form of a reset. Reset is also acclimated to the scales of justice. The scales of justice is connected to Mayat, and Mayat is the wife of Tahuti, right? He's associated with Mercury. When you're talking about squaring the circle of the four gas giant planets, these gases is creating an influx of cosmic radiation. The cosmic radiation is creating many different celestial events, just like this one. So you're going to have the lunar eclipse, blood moon lunar eclipse on March 14th of 2025. So from October 14th of 2023 on my birthday, is basically 517 days apart. 5 + 1 + 7 equals what? 13, which is a form of restoration of the matriarch. So you got to look at things from an analytical standpoint and from a numerical standpoint if you want to understand what time it is on the planet, because numbers is basically ruled by the universe because the universe is mathematical. If you understand the numerology and the sigils and the symbolism that's connected to the numbers, you'll be able to tell what's going to be happening in the future by way of the numerical spectrum that's connected to the three-dimensional reality. So this is also connected to the Grammys, the number 13 again. 6 + 7 is 13, right? And then you also had it on February 2nd. So you had 2 + 2 + 2 + 2 + 5. That's another 13. So everything that you see in it is basically a form of restoration. So February 2nd plus 2025, that's 13. Wow, it's the 67th Grammy Awards. 13 again. Then you had the celestial cosmic event of the lunar blood moon eclipse. Is 517 days apart from the October 14th solar eclipse. And that is exactly 13. That's what you see taking place right now. And you notice Chris Brown, this is a 128 ritual that took place at the Grammys. So right now we're doing a lot of code cracking with the information and the numbers. So 1111 is represent the Jack and Boaz that as you go through the Golden Gate. So this number, when you see 1111, represents the Golden Gate because the Golden Gate is talking about this ritual right here of the 128 connected to the bridge collapse. The Golden Gate ritual, right? That's going to be the big one, the earthquake, which is why they moved the doomsday clock to 89 seconds, because it's going to perpetuate an 89 earthquake, just like how they did in 1989 in Loma, in San Francisco Bay, which is a massive 128 ritual, right? That's why you got to watch this video, Gate of the Gods. Now, back to the presentation. So this is all connected. Then you had this take place at the Grammys. They were showing you Shiva. Now, what is the significance of Shiva? Shiva is the outer manifestation of, Krishna is the outer manifestation of Shiva, because when you break down the etymology of Shiva, Shiva is equated to 7. So a 7 is also equated to a Christ consciousness. When you go to the numerical spectrum of the 5% nation, 7 is equated to God. So Krishna represents Christ, and the Christ is a Christ consciousness that is amplified by right knowledge. So they know that the Christ consciousness, by way of the planetary alignments, is going to activate your genetics, which makes you a genie. right? To where you're able to materialize your reality in a form of the law of attraction that is connected to the etheric network that travels on 0-point energy fields, right? That is the green ethereal energy that you see taking place. That is basically your spirit of Melchizedek that activates the Christ within you, which is the Shakti energy. The Shakti energy is the Shiva energy. The Shiva energy is a Christ energy. So they let you know what time it is at the Grammys, right? They're showing you by way of the symbolism, which is why you see the eye in the back illuminated. So you got to prepare. You got to get your ass in alignment. I've been telling y'all, get in alignment. Y'all don't know what's going to be taking place. You know what I'm saying? You should be going to the gym, not because you're trying to, thirst trap and get women, or you trying to get guys or whatever. You should be in the gym because you're preparing for what's going to be taking place on this timeline right now. You're going to need to be in alignment. You're going to have balanced energies in order to withstand the Great Awakening period. Because this is why Eric Trump, he deleted this tweet within 20 minutes. He says, any and all dare to defy the American Golden Age, heed this warning. You will lose. Toe the line, or we will run you down. The gloves are off. We are not playing around this time. For now, it's tariffs. But trust me, we can and will do so much worse. Right? So what is that worse? Like I said, it's connected to the fact that it's a form of hierarchy to where they're basically exploitating you, basically, to where they supplicate your emotions and they transmute it in a form of a weakness to basically neutralize and destabilize you, because they want you to be stagnant, because they know that the planet is going through a spiritual metamorphosis, which is basically a form of evolution. So that's why I said Donald Trump is playing both sides. So it doesn't matter which side that you pick, because this is basically the epitome of tyranny. And so you got two different timelines. So this is why I said you got to travel the timeline of using your emotions as a navigation system by not conforming to New World Order timeline number 1 or 2, right? Because everything that's connected to the left is a form of globalism, right? Marxism, communism, whatever. And then everything that's extracted from the right is a form of nationalism, in a form of capitalism that is going to create the cybernetic dictatorship in a form of artificial intelligence. Freedom is the path of the middle way, which is the path of Malakut. You don't choose a side. You follow the path of the middle way to basically deviate from the dualistic paradox in the form of polarity. Polarity is the illusion, right? So that's why I say, get out of this Metatronic overlay. Think outside the box. Unlock that super chiasmatic nucleus in the brain. Unlock that encryption that you got over your neurological faculties. That's what you got to do. That's the path to freedom. So you got to watch this video. I've been telling y'all, you see the plane in the sky in the background. One thing, when I do my videos, when I do my transmissions, I always make the thumbnail first, because that's how I see it in my mind. Then I put out then I basically have the blueprint for my presentation. You can ask my girl. Everything, when I'm doing my videos, I always make the thumbnail first, because I'm a seer. I visualize certain things before they take place, and then I put it in my thumbnail. And then I look for all the receipts that's acclimated to the thumbnail that I basically put out. So this is why 3 weeks ago I've been telling y'all, stay off the airplanes. It's showing you in the background airplane. You can't make this up. So watch this video right here, because it's connected to this video that you're currently watching. Also, watch this video, The Return of the Ethereans. I'll also talk about the plane crashes in this video as well, right? I put this out a month ago. So everything that you need as far as for you to understand everything intuitively, all the information is there, right? And I think I got another video to show you guys. For a second. So I'm going to show this video, and then I'm going to give a brief synopsis about everything. I'm going to give a real quick blueprint and rundown of the video. Salute to the Conscious Jose. He put out this, and it's basically showing you a doomsday fish, right? and I think it's in California, but I'm gonna play the video. But they let you know, not only in the media, they let you know what time it is, they also letting us know what time it is by way of the Fibonacci sequence of nature. Nature is gonna tell your ass what time it is. They're gonna tell you that we're going through a pole shift, basically.
Believe this video gave me so much chills, y'all. I'm so excited to share with you guys because big changes are coming, y'all. Check this out. So this couple was out taking a romantic stroll on the little canoe, y'all, and they came across this over here. Yes, a doomsday fish. Beach, or should I say rocked, y'all. It didn't beach itself, it literally rocked itself. And now it's literally stuck on the rocks. Look at this. This right here took place in La Paz, California. Yes, California. You guys know what this fish means, right? It's the doomsday fish. If you guys don't know the story about the oarfish, this oarfish comes out during practically earthquake. It feels certain shifts, movements, vibrations on.
Now remember I told y'all about the 89 earthquake, right? They moved the doomsday clock up to 89 seconds. Back in 1989, you had the Loma earthquake in San Francisco Bay. Now you have the doomsday fish on the rocks in California. Get your ass out of California, just like I've been telling y'all to stay off the airplanes, right? You can't make this up. The synchronicities are sinking.
The ground, and it comes to the surface to basically warn humanity. In the region they found the fish was called Isla Espiritu Santo, so the island of the Holy Spirit. Boy, you cannot make this stuff up. The island of the Holy Spirit. Now this guy was able to help the fish back into the water. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but here he is trying to help it get off the rocks. And the crazy thing is, a smaller one was found off the coast of China just last year, just at the end of last year. I mean, we told you guys the shift is here. Shift, fish, shift. And the fish have been warning us, y'all. You can't make this stuff up. Jesus said he would make you guys a fisher of men. Now look at this. But let me know what you guys think about this video. Like, follow, and share for more videos like this. Let's continue to get this shift. Peace and you will not.
So with that being said, like I said, nature is going to tell your ass every time what time it is, because like I said, we in the sun cycle. The sun cycle manipulates the historical timeline of events that's connected to humanity. So with that being said, you have to get in alignment because the planets are aligning. Planetary parades and alignments denotes the fact that the planet is enhancing the flow of cosmic energy that enhances the chakra system and the planets within you. So I'm going to give a brief rundown for a second. All right. So for those coming in, like I said, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. Non-ether engineering presentation, decoding the matrix. So put 999 in the chat, right? If you give super chat, put 999 in the super chat. So this video is called Non-Ether Engineering, basically decoding the metaphysical codex of the matrix by way of numerology and how it works in tandem with our genetics by way of the doctrine of signatures, right? So you have the doomsday clock that was moved on January 28th, right? Which is connected to the 128 code. So the doomsday clock is basically denoting the fact that how close we are to self-annihilation, scientists say. So it moved up to 89 seconds because 89 is a metaphysical codex for the earthquake that took place in 1989 in Loma, in San Francisco Bay, where they had the 6.9 magnitude earthquake. So this is basically a timeline jump by way of the numerology that is projected by way of the doomsday clock that they put out on January 28th, which is the 128 code at the bottom. The 128 code is a massive 128 ritual that is connected to this video of the Gate of the Gods, because the Gate of the Gods is how you get to the Golden Gate. The Golden Gate is what you see looking at the bridge, just like you have the 89 earthquake in San Francisco. So this is connected to the Twin Towers collapsed at 1028, which is a 128 code. Bridge collapse 128, key bridge collapse 128, bridge collapse in gematria is 128, leave the world behind, released on 12/8, which is 128. So this is all connected to the fact that we just got out of the dragon year and the inception of the snake year started on 128, which is the time when they put out the time when they moved the clock, basically. Right? So this is all connected to the Earth, magnetic north, pole shift happening, energies coming in, because you have the rising of the Kundalini Serpent, the regeneration spinal fire. This is all connected to the Super Bowl ritual in Philly. Kobe Bryant's from Philly, and we in the year of the snake. So it represents patriarchy, runway 33, which is a Freemasonic number that's connected to the Black Nobility Eagle. So you got the 13 as a matriarchal number. We already broke down 13 during the end of the video. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you watch the end of this video, because I give a intrinsic breakdown on how the 13 is connected to the Grammys, right? 13 is a matriarchal number. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is all connected to engineering. I already broke this down because it's basically talking about the activation of the Zohar body by way of the cosmic ionized particles, right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if this video, if everything that you see taking place right now is not going to wake you up, it's either one of those things where you're an NPC, you're going to get submerged into the matrix even more, right? Because one thing that I found out about people, when you're a chosen one with supreme intelligence, when you're a chosen one with supreme intelligence, a lot of times your intelligence and your energy is going to be a threat to other people, meaning that it's going to send a neurological notification to the threat detection system in the brain to where they either going to attack you, avoid you, or they basically going to disagree with you when they know you right anyway. So that's why I said it's imperative to keep, stay in alignment. Stay away from NPCs. Stay away from the distractions, right? Because your energy, your essence, and your intelligence is a threat to them. It's a threat to everything that's connected to the matrix, because they know that the energy of the three-dimensional paradox is phasing out, because we just got out of the age of Pisces, right? The age of Pisces is the age of darkness. The age of darkness is the age of deception, and the age of deception is the age of illusion. We're breaking out of the illusion because we're in the sun cycle. This is where you get square in a circle. You square the circle. The circle is spiritual metamorphosis. The square represents the Metatronic overlay that's connected to the energy of the moon and Saturn. So when you square the circle, right, what happens is this is where you get a dimensional reality of a timeline jump to where it creates a great separation. NPCs over here, everybody who has a veneration for everything that's connected to third density, everybody's over here. Chosen ones and everybody who's trying to awaken in this great awakening period, they're going to be castigated to the right, because we're propagating right knowledge. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, please get this video out there. Like I said, stay off the airplanes. I've been telling y'all for about 2 years. Get out of California, right? And don't fly no planes that add up to the number 11 or 911, or it shows you like 29 or anything like that, right? Because those are ritualistic numbers that's connected to the Thole Society, when you understand the metaphysics of that. But I'm not finna do I'm gonna do a definitive breakdown on that, a whole presentation on that eventually. But so with that being said, oh, I forgot to show you guys. I'm also gonna be in Atlanta. Let me get this, bring this back up. I'm also gonna be in Atlanta on February 8th of 2025 at the Non-Ether God Fest. It's going to be Sharif El Bay, Kambata, Loaded Lux, Sister Myra. You got me here at the bottom. Red and Blue Pill is going to be there. KT the Arch Degree is going to be there. Bro Yosef, Dr. B Serious. You can't really see Billy Carson right here, but Billy Carson is going to be there. I think Aaron Lyons is going to be there. It's going to be a multitude of people that's going to be at this event. And even if you can't even get inside the event because it's sold out, they have other venues outside of the event. So just come and just vibe out. It's just going to be a lot of energy there, a lot of energy that basically trying to combat the incantations from the dark priesthood that's going to be connected to these Super Bowl rituals that they're going to be putting out. So this energy that we're going to be perpetuating at the Non-Ether God Fest on February 8th, this energy that we're going to be amalgamated, everybody is basically Voltroning together. And we having this event to basically destabilize the incantations that's going to be projected by, the dark priesthood of the plutocracy on Super Bowl Sunday, which is on the 9th. So if you can, if you will, we all going to be here at the Non-Ether God Fest in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Black Wall Street venue. And I think it's in Stonecrest, Georgia. So like I said, if you want to meet me, I'm going to be at this event right here along with these legends at the bottom. So everybody, it's crazy that I'm working with these guys, because I've been watching these guys since I was in middle school. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get this video out there. Hit 999 in the chat. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. End of transmission.